Hello and welcome back to the Why Carbs Won't Make You Fat podcast. And I'm joined by Nick. He's here in the flesh. It's been a little while. It's
It's been a
been
while. Yeah.
lively family life. But he's here. Josh is taking a break this week. He's just doing some family bits himself. So just Nick and I. So Nick, how has life been between whenever we last
Yeah.
spoke and now?
Yeah. I can't remember how long it's been since I was on this podcast. It felt like it's been a few months.
Yeah.
Um, so a little bit of history for those who probably may not have heard my voice in the earlier sessions. So I was on the podcast back at the start. And then selfishly, I decided to go and have a baby.
All by
Which sort
yourself.
of yeah, by myself. Yeah. My wife had nothing to do with it. Which, yeah, kind of for anyone who's got a child knows that it takes up quite a lot of your time, and doesn't leave you with a lot of spare time to do the other bits. So yeah, I've been trying to sort of get back on the pod, and this is the first chance I think we've had for quite a while. But yeah, still been listening to the boys carrying the torch,
Nice.
which has
Good.
been good.
Always think of you when we're on the pod.
Oh, that's nice. It's nice to know. But yeah, it's just been I said, for people that sort of haven't heard me before, so I have an Instagram page called Metcalf Nutrition, and I used to post. Emphasis on the used to post once a week some content, but again, it's one of those things where you know just finding the time to
Yeah.
sit and produce content. I see people who do it who have kids, and I just end up sitting there thinking, I don't know how you're doing this. I
Yeah.
don't know how you're managing
Yeah.
the.
Yeah.
And I think you can go down the road of doing the what I eat in a day reels and all that kind of. And it's just filling for filling's sake, isn't it? So I'd rather just kind of like just sit back from it, and then
Yeah.
now things are settling back down again. We are getting into a bit of a rhythm, and Cam, my
Yeah.
little boy, is getting a bit more settled. I think that the time will come back to produce some
100%.
stuff. So watch this space if anyone's keen
Perfect.
to
Good.
find out
Looking
more.
forward to the return
Yeah.
of high quality content.
Yeah.
It's like that philosophy of you just got to sometimes turn. It's like a thermostat. You got to turn it like a dimmer switch in your house. You got to turn it up and down
Yeah.
to suit life really. And when you get busy, things have to slide a little bit and priorities go elsewhere.
Yeah. I think I was very maybe like naive is the right word in thinking that there's bound to be time when you can just sit and
Mm.
produce something. But I think, as I've said before, that the problem, if that's the right word, with nutrition content is myself personally, I like to make sure that what I'm putting out
Yeah,
there
yours is very, very
is
thorough. Yeah,
accurate,
yeah, yeah,
because
100%.
I hate to think that something I've put out there is, you
Yeah,
know, wrong and then put someone down the wrong path.
100%. Yeah, yeah.
But the cost of that is that you need to read, research,
Mm.
and look into it and take the time. So it's not just the creating the content; it's the preparing and that kind of thing. So
Yeah, 100%.
yeah, we will get back. We will get
Yes.
back.
Perfect.
We will
Uh,
return.
So, I mean, last time you joined us, we were having a little chat about your son was relatively newborn, wasn't
Mm,
it, last time on the pod, and you were talking about how things had changed, and I'd be like interested to see, like, we were just chatting a little bit off air. I know it's constantly evolving, I think would be the probably
yes,
the best way of putting it. But how have things changed? Is he sort of like 8 months now? Did you say 8 months?
eight months now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we were just saying before then we're just starting on the weaning
Mm.
stage with Cam. Um, which is a whole kind of anyone that has children with weaning, everything linked to children has this
Mm.
kind of everyone's got an opinion on the
Yeah.
way that you should be raising and doing things with
Yeah.
your child, and weaning is a whole different level of some people start really early, some people don't, some people do all different styles, but it's nice to kind of start a journey with Cam that's kind of almost like not fully nutrition based, because at the moment we're just trying to get him to just enjoy flavors and textures and
Exposure,
stuff.
isn't it? Yeah.
But it's a bit later on that you'll start to try and like balance his meals out a bit and
Hmm.
introduce
Yeah.
kind of proteins and carbs and that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And there's a lot of great cookbooks out there for kids. Surprisingly, Joe Wicks does a good one, Wean in 15.
Yeah. Keep.
which he's done well there.
He
He's
has
done
done
well.
well.
But in terms of myself personally, it's kind of before Cam came along, I was very much a religious kind of gym 4 times a week.
Hmm.
I ate quite well,
Yeah.
always tried to maintain that. And then you have a period where sort of Cam was born and you can maintain that to a level, but it does,
Yeah.
it does take a bit of a backseat for a while.
Mm.
But we found that actually, just having a routine, kids like routines,
Yeah.
that Cam likes to know when he's getting up and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, and it helps him with his day and when he's napping and that kind of thing. And then meal times are starting to form part of that because
Mm.
now when we eat, it's a good time to then feed him for dinner as well.
Amazing. Love
He
that.
gets to watch us eat. He gets to
Yeah.
watch me cook and get involved in that. Not get involved. He's not stirring the saucepan, but
No, but he's like
he's sat
absorbing. Yeah. Yeah.
he
Yeah.
sat in the corner, just kind of being interested. And I
Yeah.
tend to sort of like waft a lime under his nose or a bit of
Yeah.
garlic so he can sniff it.
I
And
mean,
it's
they're
nice
like
because
little
he's
sponges, really, aren't they?
oh
They're just like
yeah,
learning so much that you probably don't appreciate.
it's
That sort
crazy
of
sort of
thing.
how much they're just constantly taking it in. But I think that if anyone's listening to this and they think they're in a sort of similar position as I was before kids with, maintaining the gym and that kind of thing. I don't know whether it's like you look back now and I guess it was like kind of like a bit of a control thing, kind of
Yeah.
like you can
Yeah.
just,
I
that's
like.
what
Yeah. I
I can
still want my
control and
bit
I
of.
can do this.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things you kind of realize is it's okay to let go of that to some degree.
Yeah.
So I'm in no way as religious with the gym as I used to be. It's still a major part of my week. But
Amazing.
for example, we had the past 4 weeks where Cam had a cold, then I had a cold, and then
Yeah.
work was
Yeah.
busy, and I went to the gym twice in a month,
Mm.
which for me is
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
unheard of previously. And at the start, it is a bit of a I need to, but as soon as you just let it go,
Mm.
just go into the acceptance that it's going to be a bit tricky and a bit
Mm.
do what you can when you can, and it's kind of just evolved into walks before work,
Yeah.
walks
Fantastic.
after work with Cam. So I get to
Love
go
that.
and like put him in the pram and chat to him about my day, and it sends him to sleep. Um, and it's just I just found myself once you kind of just let that pressure go, it actually just makes it a whole lot easier.
Yeah, and
And I think,
I think what's fantastic there is you still involved like one of the most important ways to exercise you haven't let go of, like
yeah,
just
because
motion.
I'll tell you what as well, walking when you've got a baby is great
Yeah,
because you just get to go out and it's like, firstly, babies love it
yeah,
because it's fresh air and he's just absorbing everything around, he's watching everything. And then he kind of nods off a part of it as well. So at that point, I kind of like just chuck my headphones in. You get to listen
mhm.
to the podcast, and it's like, don't tell my wife, but it's almost like I'm doing my bit, helping her.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
gives her a bit of time, but actually, I get to go out,
Got some time. Yeah, yeah. I think that's so important, actually.
and
Like,
wander, and just or like strap them to your chest, and you've got a free weighted vest, which is always good for you.
my dad used to say to me when we just moved into this house, got a shed at the bottom of the garden. It's got like think like I this will make most people feel better about unfinished DIY projects because we've got loads. And I still haven't finished the project I'm going to talk about. But in the shed, like when we moved in, we're like, oh, brilliant, shed's got power because it's got a strip light. Yeah. So there's a strip light fully installed in the shed. There is zero power down there. I don't know why you would start with the light and then work back to the power side. But so long story short, the power source still isn't there. But my dad used to say to me, he was like, "You need to get that shed wired up." I was like, "Well, we could make do with a torch, Dad. It's right,
Yeah,
actually, or whatever." He's like, "No, no, no, no. You need some time. You need a space where you can be away from the other half." And
yeah.
it's true, like words of wisdom from the old man.
Oh
It's
God, yeah,
true, like
definitely.
for everyone, that time apart. And I imagine as well, even like I imagine very hard to do with kids, but still, like I know a lot of our members at the gym are mums and dads, and they
Mm,
love being there in the classes away from the kids.
yeah,
And it's not they don't love their kids. They're not like, I mean,
yeah,
might laugh and joke about it a little bit, no, away from the little shit or whatever. But that's just banter, right? They're
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
their family,
You,
but they
yeah.
go back home fully charged because they spent a little bit of time away from them.
I think that's definitely a golden rule of anyone who's got young kids or going into it. That time, if you can grab a couple of hours in the week where you just go and have some time out, godsend,
Yeah.
absolute godsend. And yeah, the gym for me is that space. And I think I mentioned before when I was on this, back when Cam was first born, another thing with the gym is kind of a lot of guys, especially, will go to the gym and they'll try and do that, like the bro split of, they'll try and do like chest Monday and that kind
Mm.
of thing. And it's like, when your training is kind of unpredictable, that style for me, I've never really done that style, but that style doesn't work
No.
because if you're unexpectedly missing Monday, then you go, oh, when am I training chest and when am I?
Yeah.
So I just full body for me. I just
Yeah.
go in and I can get a session done in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Don't
Perfect.
take, put your phone down,
Yeah. Yeah.
concentrate, get
Get
it
rid of
done.
it. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been good. I'm looking forward to more, you know, the journey with Cam and
Mm.
food and kind of just seeing him grow and like seeing his little personality coming out. I'm going to sound like a doting
Yeah.
father now, but yeah, it's nice to see it.
Lovely.
It's good.
I think as well, like I know from a good friend of mine, I'm godson to one of his boys. He's got two young boys. Um, Commutes up to London for his job, so he works from home some of the time. He's commuting up to London. And he was like, "Can you?" He was in the army. He's done a bit of lifting before, some CrossFit and bits back in the day. But he was like, "I've got a little bit. I've got barbell in the garage, a few plates. Can you put together like a home, like a few days of home workout?" So I had a chat with him, and lo and behold, like 40 minutes is probably appropriate. Like any
Mm,
longer than that, he's kind of like either the boys are coming in, like, what you doing,
yeah.
dad? Or like his wife's like, come on, get your ass back
Mm,
in here and help with the kids. Because they are, I love the boys to pieces, but everyone will admit they are both nutters. And in that 40 minutes, they probably tried to kill each other twice between them. But right, so put a program together. These are the weights we've got. Make the movements difficult because he's like stronger than the weights he's got.
yeah.
So like make the movements more difficult with pauses and like some funky stuff that just makes it harder.
Yeah.
But pretty much, I give him three compound lifts to do, one of which is in a superset. So he might do like a deadlift variation just on its own, 3 sets of 8. He'll
Mm,
do like some sort of row and bench press as a
mm,
superset. So row into bench press, rest 3 times round, 3 sets of 8 to 10. And then we're going to set a timer for 15 minutes.
mm,
And all of his accessory work is as many times round,
yeah.
like 10 reps as many times round. And like being the type of personality he is, he pushes really hard in that 10 minutes,
Yeah.
comes out dripping with sweat, feels he's had a great workout, has left the session feeling brilliant. And you know what? The other day, I just posted this on my Instagram. This was so good. Um, he was like, "Oh, I've got a little bit of time, like to go in and out of the gym on my way home from work, like just around the corner." So I've been using it a little bit, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I didn't notice you were doing that on your videos and things." And he was like, "I really fancy seeing where my squat and my deadlift's at." I was like, "Okay." So I was like, "Well, rather than do a max, let's do a 3 rep test because
Mm,
that's a bit safer. You don't want to just push like, especially not done heavy weights at all." So the squat, he was like well undershot the weight. So he ended up doing like 15 reps. So I was like, well, that's fine. We know where we're at with
mm,
that. The deadlift, he had like a bit better idea. And I think like in his head, he had, I wonder if I can still do the deadlift my best, like PB deadlift.
yeah.
So I was like literally leaving the gym and he texted me and he said, "Oh, what should I do with my deadlift?" And I was like, "Well, just warm up in like," he's a relatively strong guy. So I was like, start at 60 kilos, then add 15-kilo plates until you get close to around about that 180. And then like you'll know how you feel. Make sure you reckon you'll get about 3 reps out. And then like so go up in smaller increments. And like if you overshoot or undershoot, it doesn't matter, but try and undershoot it and get the reps out.
Mm,
So I got home, text message on my phone. It's like, "I'm glad you said that. Last time I went in the gym, like 180 was my PB." He sent me a photo of it and was like, when I did that, it nearly ended me for 1 rep. He's like, "I just pulled 3."
mhm.
Ridiculous. The most
Yeah.
lifted is like 90 kilos in variations of the deadlift.
It's crazy, isn't it? How you can,
Mental.
yeah, yeah. I think I think there's a lot to be said about. I know it always sounds a bit weird, but like, if you go to a gym, I think there's a lot to be said about like not always training for like one rep
Absolutely.
max,
Absolutely.
one rep max, and all that kind of stuff. There's a
Just
lot to be said
blast. Yeah.
about dropping the weight down and do a set of 15 slowly.
Yeah.
So I there was ages ago now, like I was in the gym and I was doing I think I was doing like a really light bench press, but slow
Mm.
and like really controlled and
Yeah.
just really focusing. And you could tell there was like a couple of younger guys kind of, and they were looking at me as if to be going like, "What is this kid like? He's struggling with whatever it was."
Like, no, no, you come and
But you
train.
know, I don't know if it's just me. My body reacts a lot better to that style of training.
I think as well, as
That
we get a little bit,
slower kind of
yeah,
tempo, I find it works a lot easier for me.
as we get a little bit older, a little bit shorter on
Yeah,
time, a little bit more stressed, like just blasting yourself a little bit more with stuff
yeah,
that's hard but not heavy. Like, I know,
yeah.
like so many plates in the air, like running nutrition business and helping out running the gym that I work at. Like when me and my colleague used to train strongman, it used to be like almost impossible to try and write a comprehensive email or
Mm,
like post for the gym because your central nervous system is destroyed.
yeah, yeah,
Like now we've switched focus training wise, not because of that, but just coincidentally, we've got a few teams in like more CrossFitty type competitions this
yeah.
coming up year. So we're training in that style so that we can lead those teams as a strong athlete, but also practicing what we preach. And that more kind of like cardiovascular base, lower, like it's still heavy enough. We're not going to lose any strength, but we both just feel better for it. I mean,
Mm,
I'm doing loads of running at the minute to sort of bring that up.
mm,
And I was taking a corporate nutrition talk yesterday and like mentioning calories and stuff. And I was using an example. I was like, look, nobody's calorie intake is the same. Everyone's got different goals. And I was like, when
mm,
I used to do a corporate job, I used to gain weight around about, I don't know, 2,600 calories, 2,800 calories. And I would still make, because I may still make sure I got 10,000 steps at least in every
mm,
day. Like now I'm a PT and I'm doing all this cardio. I'm
mm.
losing weight at 4,200.
Yeah,
Mental.
it's crazy, isn't it?
Like,
How
and I
that
said to the
works.
guys, I was like, don't get me wrong, I don't have a proper job. Like, you guys aren't going to need to put like, but you know, it just goes to show, like, and right back to that, like, I don't hate them, but those what I eat in a day posts are like, yeah, it's nice
Yeah,
to be like, cool, I'm a real human. This is what I eat. I think that's a nice way to use them. But to be like, oh, that that personal trainer eats 4,000 calories. That must be where I'm going wrong. Is like, no, you sit on your bum all day. Don't do that, please. Um, okay, so we lost the audio a little bit there, guys. I will sort that out in the edit. Hopefully it'll be fairly seamless, but I'm terrible at editing, so you'll probably just hear a clunky bit and that'll be fine. Moving swiftly on. Nick, I think we were going to move on to talk about a little bit about food environment, and that's something that's
yes,
come up in my nutrition talk with the guys I did yesterday for the corporate company that I sort of had a little chat with, and that was basically around like optimizing what we eat to like perform well at work. Like there's lots of stuff around people like having to like rush through breakfast and things, or like grabbing and go with like either lunches on their lunch break. So they work in like at one of these WeWorks in London.
yeah,
I know like the modern office environment tends to be a
mm,
little bit like you don't get your own space, and like especially in, like the WeWork, they were like, oh, I don't know whether I'm going to put my lunch in the fridge because
mm,
it's going to be there when I go and find it. So like all that sort of stuff. So they're buying food out a lot, and a lot of the conversations are around that, and so it ties into a little bit about food environment, which I'll kind of let you start off.
mm. Yeah. So we'll start with, in terms of when we say like food environment, it's a lot to do around. Yeah, it sounds quite simple. Your environment and how food is presented. So, like we're finding a lot nowadays. So, a couple of examples would be you're walking down a high street and you're noticing that the number of greengrocers is less, and
Mhm.
actually the number of takeaways is increased. Or you walk into a supermarket and you're met with a wall of kind of Cadbury's Roses tins
Yeah.
at the front, and that you've got to wade through to kind of get into the shop. And then within sort of shops, you've got all the offers for buy one get them free on
Yeah.
certain what we call sort of less nutritious foods. And I've been reading a few articles on it. It's one of the things that I feel a lot of people do struggle with. I think when you talk to a lot of people about weight management and sort of where they want to be and stuff, there's always this kind of notion that if people are overweight, it's like, oh, they can't have a lot of self-control, or
which is
they
mostly
struggle
bullshit.
with this kind of thing. And you kind of go, but it's not. Like these people who maybe have a sweet tooth or whatever, if you're walking in your general life, you're just swamped by all of this, treats, as it were, everywhere you go. Where I live, we've just had two in not a very large area, Greg's drive-throughs open up.
Drive through as well.
And you kind of go like, who
Christ.
needs a Greg's drive-through? Like,
Yeah.
for a start,
Yeah.
who needs that? And it's just, you notice now kind of walking down high streets that because of the way that the economy's gone and, people are doing a lot of online shopping, a lot of those empty shops are now being filled with takeaway places.
Yeah, or cafes and things. Yeah.
And then you kind of think, well, okay, well, actually, if I'm just at home, once I get through my front door, then hopefully that's it. The temptation is gone. But you look at it now, and even the food environment in your own home. If you own a phone,
yeah,
you have access to
Deliveroo, Uber Eats, etc., etc.
of your own home. You're literally there on your sofa, and you think, "Oh, I fancy a pizza," and within 20 minutes, someone's brought it to your door.
Yeah.
Now, the difference of how that's gone from when I was a kid is I grew up in a relatively kind of small town. We had a Chinese, and we had a standard kind of fish and chip shop in the high street, and the nearest McDonald's was a good kind of 20-minute drive away. So you never went to McDonald's. That was unheard of.
No. Yeah.
And even getting a takeaway was kind of unheard of for our family. If you did go, we walked to get it.
Yeah.
It was never a case of you drive to get it.
Yeah, 100%.
And I just
we're back. Right. Sorry. We're not having much luck with the video today.
This is IT issues here. At least I can see you now.
Yeah,
I can see you.
Right. It's come back. You were talking about you used to like walk to the takeaway with the family. That's the last time. Right?
Yes. So yeah, the kind of notion now that people are growing up with this access to stuff just at their fingertips. It's just a case you never. For the people that really struggle, they always kind of say that they're just constantly thinking about food.
Yeah.
And it's a constant kind of just itch.
Yeah.
In the back of their mind, and it's a constant. And it's just, if you've always got that temptation at your fingertips, it's very difficult, in my opinion, or very harsh to say to these people, "Well, you just need to learn control. You just need to do this." It's like you're basically saying, put someone who maybe struggles with alcohol and sit them in a pub. And say, well, just control yourself. You should have a Coke or whatever. It's like, no. So I was thinking about this came along as well because I was in London last Wednesday for work, and I finished work and I was going back to the station. I was feeling a bit hungry. And I was just thinking, I just want something to, tide me over for the train home. And I thought, I don't really want anything major because I was going to have dinner when I got home.
Yeah.
So you're kind of walking around towards London Paddington, and I was like, there's literally nothing. Unless you want, donuts, pastries, this kind of stuff, which, again, is if you want a pastry, it is what it is. But personally, I knew that wasn't going to be enough for me to go on the train journey home without buying more.
Yeah.
So it actually came to the fact that I was there. I ended up buying a cheeseburger from Burger King because it was like the only real thing that was like, it was like 280 calories. And I was like,
meal,
this is probably like the only thing I can really eat that I know is going to get me through that train journey.
Yeah.
And I think the unfair part of this as well is that a lot of food environment as well is like who's got access to what we'd call nutritious foods.
Yeah.
So if you walk down a high street if you're in London, if you're going through Notting Hill, you're probably going to see organic fruit and veg shops dotted around. nice butchers
like
maybe and that
Chelsea or
kind of thing.
somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah, like those kind of areas.
yeah. You walk down Tooting High Street, it don't look like that.
Exactly. There's high streets in areas of Bristol where I live where you're not going to see a fruit and veg shop,
Mm-mm.
and it's impacting the people at the lower end of the
Mm.
economic kind of
Yeah.
scale, who you just kind of go, how do you get out of that? You're
Mm.
surrounded by this all the time.
Mm.
You don't have the same disposable income to go and, you know, go and buy the more expensive food. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong,
Or
I'm
the
not
time
saying
to cook it,
all
probably.
the time to cook. Yeah, and that's the thing that people kind of struggle with as well, is that people will go, oh well, you know, you can buy some 5% fat mince and some veg, and you can blitz up your own
Yeah.
spag bowl, blah blah. And I will say, yeah, you can, and that's a really good tip for someone to go and do.
Yeah.
But if you've got someone who's on um, a low budget and they're
Mm.
really watching the pennies in terms of like
Yeah.
their gas meter or their electric meter, finding the money to A, buy the ingredients, but also B, cook it
Yeah.
is a struggle.
Working,
And
like long days because they're
long
paid
days, you know,
hourly rather than on a
and
salary.
that's the other thing is people at that end of the scale probably working longer hours, working harder hours,
Physical job, probably.
physical job, and at the end of it, you kind of finish your day and you're walking home from work and you're passing. You might pass the first takeaway, you
Yeah.
might pass the second, but
Yeah.
by the time you get into the third and the fourth, and you're
Yeah.
going, oh, that smells nice.
It's only a fiver.
Only a fiver because they're yeah,
I'll spend £4.50 in Sainsbury's. I've got to cook
exactly.
it. Yeah.
And then you're also seeing now that because of the way the economy's gone and people are struggling for money, takeaways and restaurants are starting to kind of go, okay, well, we'll offer real value for money.
Yeah.
So we'll offer these massive portions of.
Mm.
I'm not sure if there's a guy on YouTube and he does like rate my takeaway. Basically, he drives
Oh
around like.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Well, some of his earlier stuff was he go around kind of like different areas of the UK, and they get these like, I think they call them like munch boxes.
Right.
And they're a big pizza box, and it's just full of like beige stuff,
Yeah.
burgers, onion rings, all different bits. And he goes into it and he's like, this is 15 quid.
Mhm.
And for some families, that'll feed a family of four.
Yeah. Which is
And like, I don't know about you, but like my heart breaks a little bit
yeah, yeah,
that that is the option for some people. That's where they're going with it. But
Mhm.
the problem is that the more people struggle money wise, the more those type of things
Yeah.
appeal because it's value for money,
Mhm.
which then obviously increases the demand.
Yeah.
Then if anyone's in that area, increased demand will just create another takeaway
Mhm.
because they've seen the
Of
demand
course. Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And it's just this ever evolving kind of, how do you pull
Yeah.
back from that?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
do you pull a high street or an area back from that kind of? And I don't know if you've seen it now. Same thing with takeaways. You go into restaurants now. I think we went to a what was it, like a Brewers Fair, or whatever it was, or
Yeah.
Beefeater, or one of these kind of like family
Mm.
restaurants. I don't think there was a main meal on the menu that was like under 3,000 calories.
Yeah.
And again, they're kind of appealing to that kind of
Yeah.
value for money,
Yeah.
fill your plate,
Yeah.
look at what you can have.
Mm.
And I just feel that, especially sort of having a young child myself,
Mm.
where does this go before we start going, how far do we want it to go?
And it always
How
reminds me a little bit of the, the movie Wall-E.
yeah,
It's so on point about the modern world. That could almost be now. They're all going
yeah,
around in these like little hover chairs so they don't have to walk
yeah,
anywhere. They're in front of a screen all the time. Food's delivered
yeah,
directly to their chair. And I think there's a point where like the captain like figures out everything's going wrong and like tries to get out of his chair and he can barely walk.
yeah.
And it's like so on the money, and you're like, shit, that is like pretty
Because
much.
that's even the thing now, isn't it? Like, yeah, you walk outside your door, and like, I'm not sure about it's the same where you live, but we've got all these kind of battery powered scooters or whatever they are.
Yeah.
I sound like an old man now.
No,
All
there's a
these,
South
yeah,
Park
we got all
episode
these
about those, I
scooters
think.
knocking around. But like, why would you walk, 20
Yeah.
minutes to the shop when you can just hop on that and float up the road? So not only are we seeing just food increasing in size and availability and
Mm,
just being marketed to everyone and everybody, we're just seeing physical movement really decrease as well.
mm.
You mix those two together, and it's like
It's not good.
the outcome isn't good, is it? It's not a positive. There's not going to be an improvement on the NHS demand for
No,
obesity issues and that kind
no.
of thing. But then someone said to me the other day, I was like, well, how do you come back from that? And I think if I was kind of looking at it, I think local councils and all that kind of thing really need to look at, quotas of takeaways in high streets.
Yeah, it's like it's a societal problem. It's not something
Yeah,
one person can fix on their own.
you need to look at that. You need to look at if we are kind of, if the government are putting this sugar tax on certain drinks,
Mm,
then that money needs to go into either subsidizing the cost of fruit and veg
hmm.
or subsidize the cost of advertising fruit and veg. So the what we see on TV is more nutritious based instead
Yeah,
of, just the people that make the most money can advertise
yeah, exactly.
rubbish to kids all
I
the
like,
time.
yeah, yeah.
But I also think it's people, dare I say it, people need to want the change as well.
Yeah, a little bit. I think. I guess like I guess the question is like, as a we're not going to be able to change the system necessarily, but what can we do as individuals
Yeah.
almost hack that environment that we're in, which is like a lot of the stuff I was doing with the guys I was talking to, guys and girls I was talking to yesterday about like, yeah, some days we have had a bit of a shocker. Like Greg's is the nearest thing we can go and
Mm.
grab. Like, and I kind of used like the initial, like the very first one. I was like taking the mick out of one of the guys in the room because I knew like he was like, oh, so you always get this if you're into fitness, even if you're like, especially if you're like a coach. They're like, oh, don't look at what I'm eating, or like, oh, so and everyone's always grassing everyone up. And it's like, oh, so and so
Yeah.
went for Greg's earlier. That'd be great for your talk, Tim. And I was like, well, it will be, but I'm not going to like. But I was like, well, yeah, we do go to Greg's sometimes and grab something, and we know the quality of that food isn't great. But then
Mm.
how do we? I was like, then how do we enrich that in the
Mm.
moment? So can we go to Greg's and make sure though that we go past the shop on the way home, grab an apple and a bottle of water, like apple and get some water in us? Can we start keeping a few bits and pieces either in our backpack or in our little cup
Mm.
hole in the office to kind of supplement things when it goes a little bit wrong like that? So can we take some protein powder to work and have that alongside our Greg's to sort of bring up the levels and kind of blend out the beigeness of that
Mm.
thing? And then like I did this little workshop with them. I was like, yeah, what are the issues that we find? Mostly it's around time.
Mm.
And it's okay. So like the first thing is like, well, what's the but when time has got in the way and we've like not bought in lunch, we're not sorted out breakfast. What do we do? What's the plan B and C?
Mm.
Then it was also like, actually, can we go one step further? And then because what interested me was it's like, well, I don't want to. And my old boss used to say this to me. He was like, I don't understand. He's like, oh, I can't be getting up and making my lunch in the morning before I go to work.
Mm.
I was like, I don't do that. I
Yeah.
make it when I make my dinner.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like a simple little thing, but it's like, well, you do make some form of dinner.
Yeah.
So can we not just do it? And it's like, well, no, and again, like very different people are like different. And like one of the guys, like you could tell it wasn't really that fussed about food. He just needed to get it done. I was like,
Mm.
how important is it for you to eat a different variety of food across the day or the week? He's like, I literally eat anything any day. I was like, so when you make your dinner tonight, why don't you make two portions and eat that
Yeah.
tomorrow for lunch? He's like, oh yeah, okay. Like, yeah, it sounds very simple, but
Mm.
sometimes we don't think about these things.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think it's so my main day job is I work for a bank, and
Mm,
one of the things that is a bit of a focus on in the banks at the moment is you have things called sludge processes,
Right.
and that is where banks and companies will purposefully slow down certain processes
Yeah.
to get the result they want. Well, not you're not supposed to do it, so there's a focus on it now, and that's
Yeah.
why it's all been changed. But for example, anyone that's tried to cancel a Sky subscription,
Yeah, of course they're like, oh, okay. Would you like to speak to this
they
person?
literally don't allow you to speak to anyone. You go
Yeah,
around
okay.
the houses in the hope that you just give up.
Yeah.
So but you're also you look at like positive friction. So when is it right to slow down something
Mm.
for the good of a customer? So that is obviously
Yes.
like when you're taking out a product, you want to slow them down to make sure they understand it and then
Yeah.
proceed and that kind of thing. And I just think I think I lost my train of thought there.
I can see where you're going with that a little
I
bit,
was on.
actually. Like
I had
that,
it in my head
like
then. I lost my train of thought. Yeah,
the slowing down bit resonated with me. So,
yeah,
and I said this to the guys yesterday, actually, I used to travel a lot on the road for work, and I was like, look, you're going to walk into like, I'm somewhere like an hour south of Sheffield trying to get back to Guildford. I'm on the M1 in basically a truck stop. I'm not going to find any decent food.
mm,
So, but I can find a Diet Coke and an apple,
mm,
and I can eat that and suck it up for 3 hours till I get home
yeah, yeah,
to slow down the process of, yeah, I'm hungry, I need something, I've got driving to do, I want to have a bit of energy about that. I don't want to be falling
mm,
asleep and like being dangerous behind the wheel, but I don't need to sit down and eat an entire Mackie D's.
yeah, yeah,
Like I can have something to slow that down and slow the need down and just put a lid on it for a little bit. Yeah, I'll
yeah,
still be hungry in the car, but then I'm in the car and I haven't got a choice
yeah.
till I stop again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think what I was going to say as well is if you're someone who has a fondness for using kind of Uber Eats or Deliveroo
Mm.
from the comfort of your own home, and
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, you know, we all do it, but if you're
Yeah.
finding that it's becoming a bit too much,
Mm.
there's just little things you can do. So like go on your phone. If you listen to this, delete the app,
Delete the app, change password, something you don't know, don't save it in your keychain.
change the passwords, or even just when you sign into these apps now, you've
Mm.
got and it says, "Do you want to save your password?"
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
say no, you don't want to save it. And then every time you use it, just sign out. So next time when you go in, you've got to put all your details in. And just
Yeah.
it
So yeah,
sounds silly,
slow down the decision making.
but that I think using these apps is a very much of an impulse.
Yeah,
I'm
100%.
hungry. What is there? Click done.
Yeah.
If you just add that little section where you go, oh, what was my bloody password for this?
Mm. You're like, do I really need that? I've got something in the fridge actually.
Yeah,
I need that.
and
That's gonna take
it
me.
can just sort of slow you down.
Mm.
Um, but a friend of mine was talking to me about we were talking about Deliveroo and stuff like that. I don't use it sort of that much. We do use it, but I don't use it like all that much.
Mm.
And that's not because I'm some sort of nutrition wanker. It's just I just haven't kind of got into using it. And a mate of mine was saying that he uses it quite a lot, and I was like, "Oh, how much is quite a lot?" If you don't mind me asking, like sort of,
Mm.
roughly. And he goes, "Oh, I spend quite a bit per month." And I was like, "Okay, how much are we
Yeah.
talking?" And he was like, "North of 500 quid a month."
Wowza. Ooh.
And he was like, "It was even at the point, or it is at the point, because I think he's still doing it, where he will wake up, and in the process of him waking up, he will order a Greg's bacon roll and a cup of tea
Mm.
to get delivered to his house. So when he's out of the shower, it's at his
Nice.
door, and he just like, that's a lot of money.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot. So yeah, I think sort of having those little slow that process down. And
Hmm.
if you're someone that goes into a supermarket and you see these offers of buy one get one free on
Yeah.
chocolates and that kind of stuff, and
Mm.
I'm not here to say don't buy it. It's everyone's got a choice to make. But if you do buy it and you're thinking, oh, do you know what? I want to try and resist slightly. Put it in a high cupboard
Yeah.
in the
Put where you
kitchen.
can't see it. Yeah.
Stick it, but everyone's got that cupboard in the kitchen that's full of Tupperware. And the minute you open the cupboard door, there's always that chance that the Tupperware is going to come flying.
Mm.
Stick the chocolate up there
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you can't be bothered to get that Tupperware down
Yeah.
to get the chocolate. So just chuck it up there. And then only in like those situations where you go, I really need this,
Yeah,
then you
exactly.
go, oh, okay, I'll get the Tupperware down. So it's just about giving your brain that moment's respite to go, do you really want this? Is it
Because a
worth the
lot,
hassle?
yeah, a lot of it is impulsive, and that's not in the rational brain. And the
Mm,
irrational brain works very quickly on
mm,
impulse, and there's no conscious thought behind it. So
mm,
what you're doing by having these little things that Nick's talked about is you're slowing down or interfering. We would put like putting
mm,
a block on that instant reaction. So
mm.
then your rational brain will kick in and be like, "Come on, Timbo, you don't need that right now, do you?"
Because
Like,
that's the thing, isn't it? Like a lot of these apps are designed for where you can literally do it on autopilot.
yeah,
So
it's like,
if you're someone that's used Amazon, a lot,
oh yeah, like you
you can
can buy.
literally you can go on there without even thinking about it and just go,
Yeah.
boop, there you go, done.
Yeah.
And
Even like with like Apple Pay now, like on
yeah,
other websites, it's just like you can buy like yeah. I mean, there's that meme of like spend like Apple's paying.
yeah, that's yeah. But I think yeah, in terms of the food, the environment we are with food and stuff like that, it'll be a collective movement that someone has to, in my opinion, we can't keep going the way we're going
No,
because portions are bigger, availability is more,
mm,
movement is down. But already seeing, kids in infant schools who are
yeah,
getting diagnosed with or getting sort of sent to hospital with obesity related issues,
yeah,
knee replacements for kids who are 10 years old.
yeah, yeah.
And you just think,
Jeez.
we need to think about that and the impact this is having on kids. Um,
We also, I mean, what rings a bell with me, like slightly topical. I posted my stories the other day. Go a slight tangent, but it'll come back to the point. I could already see like the way some of the headlines are coming about, like the NHS needs a management, like needs to think about how they're dishing out these like
mm,
GLP-1 agonists, like the
mm,
Ozempics and that. And it's like I can already see the inference of NHS overwhelmed by demand for this drug. Of course they fucking are, because it works
yeah, yeah,
for the right people, it works. And do we know how it works? One of the biggest mechanisms of it working is that food noise that rattles around in the person's head who really
yeah,
struggles with it. It turns it down. So they're more able to walk past the fifth takeaway and still say no.
yeah. Yeah, and that's it. And I'll be honest. When these injections and Ozempic and that kind of stuff first came out, I was probably a little bit sort of ignorant on the topic. And my first thought was, you can't just give someone an injection to
I
lose weight.
mean,
That's
we're all like, we're
nonsense. Blah,
trained to
blah,
be
blah, blah.
skeptical, right?
Yeah, and I was
So,
like, what a nonsense kind
mm,
of. And it was only really when you kind of start reading people's kind of stories in
mm,
terms of their weight history and weight management, and it's exactly like you touched on there. And I think we mentioned it earlier. It's people are just saying the noise never stops.
yeah.
I'm just constantly thinking about food and wanting food.
I
And
heard it. Sorry, I heard it described as like a really good analogy. Is imagine being like I'm like this like literally every night. Imagine being really, really tired and almost at the
mm,
point where you can't stay awake. You know how like uncomfortable that feels.
yeah,
Like, I have to like take my socks off and like fidget and like you start like how uncomfortable does that feel when you're really,
yeah,
really tired and all you want to do is go to bed? And then someone
mm,
turns around to you and goes, just don't be as tired, mate.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Stop being
How
tired.
reasonable is that request? It's just like
Yeah,
I'm tired. And when someone has that kind of noise of food in their head, which isn't all of us, and if we
mm,
don't have it, we don't understand it well.
yeah,
But think about that scenario. That's what you're saying to that person. Just
mm,
don't be so greedy, mate. Don't be so hungry. It's
yeah,
like, but I'm trying.
yeah.
When they get the drug,
Yeah,
they don't have to try as hard, and that's when it all starts to fall into place because they know they're not very healthy and they don't want to
yeah,
be as overweight as they are.
yeah, definitely. And I think there's always a danger in kind of like comparing or saying there's similarities between someone who sort of struggles with alcohol and struggles with food
Hmm. But
because
it's an
th-
analogy to make a point, isn't it? Because if
there,
we
there are sort of
resonate with that,
similarities. And I think it's like you touched on there, it's like you can't expect someone to sit in a pub and just go, oh, mate, what are you getting funny about? Just don't
it's
think about it. And it's
honest.
like, if the temptation is around you everywhere, it's kind of, it's hard to control that. And I think unless you're someone that's been through it, the thing I don't like is the standard kind of, people on the social media stuff, and
Mm,
they're all, ripped and into the mindset of healthy eating and gyms and this kind of
mm,
stuff. And they're sort of back where I was in terms of sort of thinking, this isn't the answer. We can't just do it. It's too simple.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can't just get. It's like, shut up.
Well, it's not simple.
Go and speak to these people and go and understand their side of the story, and maybe try and be a bit more sympathetic and understand this
And
is
the
actually
people
quite a
that will,
positive step.
yeah, and the people that will be prescribed the drug through the proper channels will have been through programs where they've been asked to make the lifestyle changes that, and they've
Yeah,
been unsuccessful in that. So therefore, the next course of action is the clinical treatment.
I think that's the thing. Yeah, if people are doing that, they need to make sure they're going through the correct channels and get the correct help, because there's some absolute horror stories, isn't there? Like
Yeah.
people buying it online and
The
ending up in hospital and awful.
the South Park special
Yeah,
on it is so good and
yeah.
so well researched. It is incredible. They get everything right. It's a great episode.
Was it? What was? What? I didn't see the episode, but there was someone was saying like the phrase that came out of it was like, "Rich people get Ozempic, but the poor get body positivity."
Correct. Yeah, that's that. But they get and they call that so they call the body positivity drug Lizzo. It's a good and then like they basically go to war with the food companies. So the food companies are the ones pushing Lizzo.
Hmm.
And they've got like Captain Crunch and all the American cast like Tony the Tiger and stuff. They go into the factory where the kids are making the cheaper version of Ozempic and kill all the employees. It's like it's so like yeah, it's very clever.
Yeah,
South Park. Yeah, so yeah, there's that aspect to it.
but yeah, this is a where it will go. Who knows? And then you got all the talk this week of people being given Ozempic style weight loss injections and see how it impacts people's ability to go back to work and this kind of stuff. And yeah, there's a lot on the topic at the moment, and it will be interesting to see where it goes. You feel a little bit sorry for the people that are diabetic, and they're struggling to get,
Yeah,
because those who don't know, it was originally a diabetic drug.
absolutely. Yeah.
So people who have diabetes are now struggling to get the drugs they need. So that's another thing to consider. But yeah, that's another
Yeah.
tangent, I
Which I
imagine.
think like actually is probably where it's a bit beneficial it comes through the NHS because they will only use it in like they've only got limited funds, which isn't great, but hopefully that means it's then directed to those who need it the most as well.
Mm, no,
We'll see.
definitely.
We'll see how that pans out. I mean, I guess like the take home really is food environment is
Mm,
batting against you.
yeah.
Remember as well, like when we talk about this like willpower stuff, like the ultimate kind of purpose of a mammal on the planet, of which we are probably we are the primary species of mammal on the planet, is to reproduce, right?
Mm,
And to do that, you need to eat everything. If you lived in the wild, the alpha male would be the one who had access to all of the food and ate all of the food first,
mm,
right? When you live in the wild, you catch like other animals, which is hard and don't come across them very often. You eat leaves and berries and stuff you dug out of the ground. You don't just walk past three Pizza Huts in a row, right? You
yeah.
have very little access to calories. So we're designed to gorge on calories when we see them, which is why then it's not your fault
Mm,
that you overeat when presented with the food environment we have,
yeah.
but it does need navigating, and that's the thing that people kind of lose sight of. We are designed to eat all of the food.
Yeah.
The environment we live in, we need a bunch of strategies in place to stop us doing that because every
Mm,
single one of us, under the right circumstances, will go eat all of the food.
yeah. But I think it's, yeah, because you can go into a bakery now and get a donut that's Lord knows how many calories. But if you ever notice, like you're probably hungry again half an hour
Absolutely.
later
Yeah, yeah,
because there's nothing to it.
yeah,
But you've just done the best part of 500 calories,
yeah,
and then you're searching for the next thing because there's no substance to it.
yeah.
So yeah, I think yeah, like you said, the takeaway is sort of if you understand that those uh, pressures are out there, then being prepared is kind of
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
a good way to be armed. You know, taking your own lunch and sort of having a plan for meal times and that kind of stuff. And I always think the main one is don't allow yourself to get too hungry.
Yeah,
That's,
absolutely.
you know, if you can, people always laugh at me in my work because I'm sort of always snacking,
Mm.
but it's just little bits here and there just to always keep the edge off.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's always a good one.
Mm.
But yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think that's good. I think that might be a good place to leave it. As a wise one man once said, I don't know who you'd attribute this quote to, but something may not be your fault, but that doesn't mean it's not your responsibility to deal with it. And that, like, the food environment isn't your fault, but there are ways to
Navigate it.
navigate it
Yeah.
if we try hard enough with the right support and all of that sort of stuff. So I think that'd be my like take home message from the podcast.
Yeah. Sounds like a good one.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Nick. Thanks for the little update. I hope Cam
Always a
continues
pleasure.
to keep you on your toes. And I'll
Got to go and feed. Got to go and
I'll
feed
go
him
and
now, which
feed
is
him. Yeah.
always the challenge.
Talking of not getting hungry, that's probably a very
Yeah.
blazing priority. Right. Okay. We'll stop there. So thank you everyone for listening. As Nick said, he's got a Instagram page which is brilliant. So Nick, where can people find you on Instagram one last time?
I am at Metcalf_nutrition. So come and say hello if you want to scroll through my previous posts. There's some good content in there for
Yeah,
those
there
listening as
really
well.
is. Yeah, Nick's got some great information on there. Metcalf without an E.
That's thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
there we
no
go.
E at the
Made
end.
that mistake before when I first put the
Everyone wants to put
graphics
an
out
E
for
at
the
the
pod.
end. So yeah, no E at the end of Metcalf. Yeah, come and say
As
hello.
always, find me at Food Flexibility over on Instagram, foodflexibility.co.uk. And please remember, until next time, carbs won't make you fat.